Okay, welcome in everyone, welcome in. Sorry, I'm just trying to Okay. Man, I miss having people. Hey, Marcella, how's it going? Okay, sorry, the lo-fi music sucks. Let's just hop into it. Welcome in everyone. My name is Angelina Tucci. Let me make sure my volume is good here. Hold on. Okay. I think, yeah, there we go. I think that's it now. Blowing it out, but not completely. Okay. Welcome in everyone. My name is Angelina Tucci. I already said that, but we have it's a special stream today. We're just gonna be oh wait, hold on, let me put up this picture. Actually, let me put it in this picture. There we go. Zoom in, please. Adobe. Okay. Okay. Was that 50,000? No, is that $50 million? Okay. So, special stream where we're talking about Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. Because homie's been doing some pretty silly stuff on TikTok and stuff. So, you know we got to cover it. Ooh. Okay. All right. Let's put this down. We don't need that. Whoops. Close. There we go. Okay. There we go. Cool. Hopefully we get some more people in chat. I tried to tag the video correctly, but we'll see. Let's hold on. Maduro. I want to listen to his stupid new little song.
De paz de Venezuela es conectarse con los movimientos estudiantiles y los estudiantes de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica y decirles: paren la guerra, no a la guerra. Venezuela quiere paz. Unir el movimiento estudiantil de todas las universidades de Estados Unidos con el movimiento estudiantil venezolano en una sola voz para decir: war, no war, yes, peace.
What the frickle frack? You heard that broken ass English. I'm not one to make fun of people. Oh, here we go.
No a la guerra loca. No crazy girl. No.
Okay. Oh man, he's still going. Sorry. It's just that it's hilarious because this dude, yes, thank you. This is literally, imagine if Donald Trump made a remix. I mean, he probably would do this because Donald Trump does admire Nicolas Maduro. But yeah, so he was in response to the United States blowing up those boats that we don't know if they're actual drug boats or fishermen boats, who they were, what they were, but yeah. So Nicolas Maduro is really, really worried that the United States is going to go to war with them. Which, I mean, why wouldn't we? According to the entirety of Latin America, it's always been the imperialist Yankees that are always trying to, do bad things in Latin America. So, I don't see why he wouldn't be like this. But, anyways, let's continue with this stupid. I guess I don't have 1080p in Venezuela. It is a good song. I just don't know why he has to dance like that. He's like this. Which it's like a bad version of the Donald Trump dance. I don't know who these people are. I think, yes, it is very much like the crab dancing meme. Hold on, let me turn this shit down. Oh, that was good. Okay, New York Post put that together. Okay. Okay, let's watch this real quick too. So I guess I have no idea what this sword means, but literally all the headlines have been, Maduro brandishes sword and vows to protect Venezuela or vows to fight. Yeah. I think it's like a old time. It must have some historical significance. I just don't know. But like his entire fit is bad. He's wearing like a snapback hat and just like, basic military job. But then like he's just wearing Skechers.
Prohibido fallar en esta coyuntura decisiva para la existencia de la República. No hay excusa para nadie, sea civil, sea político, sea militar, sea policía. Que nadie se excuse. Prohibido fallar. La patria reclama nuestro mayor esfuerzo y sacrificio. Y con Bolívar vengo a decir que si la patria reclama, la patria tendrá nuestra vida.
Okay, so he's like saying he's going to defend the land, the home country.
Nosotros
For those of you not watching, but just listening.
De defender cada palmo de esta tierra bendita de cualquier amenaza o agresión imperialista, venga de donde venga y cuando venga.
Okay. But I guess it's like crazy because previously, he was saying not war, peace, please. Please I don't want to go to war with America. Yeah, put Bangaboo in chat for him, boys. Soon it's going to be F's in chat for Mr. Maduro. But yeah, so before he was saying, please, peace, John Lennon, peace. And now he's like, I'm going to protect no matter what. It has to 100% just be him trying to get a little bit of rally around the flag effect with his own people, to get a little bit more support. That's the only thing I could think of why he would be doing this. But it's kind of lame. He's been falling out of power, or should be falling out of power more so now. He's been struggling to cling. He's been clinging to power. But yeah, it's pretty. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It really.
CNN exclusive. Venezuela's President Nicolas.
I don't know if America is genuinely going to go to war with Venezuela, or do any sort of additional strikes like how we've been doing. So, but let's.
Maduro with a message for Americans as President Trump mulls potential military action inside Venezuela. CNN contributor Stefano Pozzomon is in Caracas with the latest. Good morning, Stefano.
Yes, good morning. I think that the value of the exchange that we had with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro yesterday here in Caracas is not on the message that he said, not what he said, because we have heard this type of speech, these messages of peace towards the United States before, but it's the fact that he was out on the street and surrounded, quite frankly, regular people, regular Venezuelans and the supporters of his government. The exchange was in a march just outside the Miraflores presidential palace. I was able to ask him what is his message for President Trump. Take a listen.
What is your message to the people of the United States, President?
To unite for the peace of the continent. No more endless wars, no more unjust wars, no more Libya, no more Afghanistan.
Do you have a message for President Trump?
My message is yes, peace. Yes,
Peace. He's literally saying yes, peace. That's so cringe.
I think that it's important to highlight the context of that exchange. Maduro is not only the sitting head of state here in this country, but he is also, according to the White House accuses him of being the leader of a narco-trafficking cartel, and they even put a $50 million bounty on his head just a few months ago.
Oh yeah, that's what we were
months,
just.
have
Okay,
seen,
so I was
especially
right.
we've
It
heard
was
from
50
the
million.
White House messages of Maduro being afraid, of Maduro
I lost
being
it.
willing
There it is,
to
50 million
negotiate. I think
US
that
dollars
yesterday's message
for this
from him
man.
was frankly allowed
Narco-terrorism, conspiracy, cocaine importation, conspiracy to use and carry machine guns and destructive devices in furtherance of a drug crime. Yeah, they got a real bad picture of him too.
I think the first time in a few months, and the first time that he accepted questions from journalists since this new deployment of warships from the United States began up until 3 months ago.
All right, Stefano Pozzebon in Caracas for us this morning. Stefano, thank you for your reporting. With us now, CNN's chief national security analyst, Jim Sciutto, who's left.
No, this guy looks cringe. I can't watch him right now.
Picture a situation that's so disastrous it caused a country's population to plummet by almost 8 million people in 10 years.
Okay,
While such a
here's a little
statistic
background.
seems nearly unimaginable, it is sadly very real, and it relates to the almost apocalyptic state of decline that the country of Venezuela entered into in the period beginning in 2013. At the helm of it all, perched atop a crumbling country and a system which continues to fail its citizens, sits Nicolas Maduro, the one-time bus driver turned most powerful man
He was
in
a bus
country
driver.
which was once one of the wealthiest.
He was literally socialism in work, right? He was bus driver turned president. How crazy is that?
Wealthiest in Latin America, and is now one of its poorest. Venezuela has been in the news for its economic woes for a large part of the last decade, and just as it appeared to have faded from view, it was hauled back into the world's attention in December 2023 when that same leader made some wild claims threatening a neighboring country with invasion, a topic we discussed in some length at the time. So today, we thought we'd explore just how this all fits together. Who is Nicolas Maduro? What is the recent history of Venezuela? And just how did things get so bad over there? Okay, before we get there, a little bit of context on Venezuela's current president. Nicolas Maduro Moros was born into a working-class family with leftist political leanings in the Venezuelan capital Caracas in 1962. Similar to other prominent leaders that we've already covered, Maduro's early life is shrouded in a little mystery and debate, with some speculation that he was actually born in neighboring Colombia, his mother's home country,
No
1 year
way.
earlier.
That's crazy. He was born in Colombia. I mean, whatever. All these people born in the same area, they're all, the borders don't define where the people are, right?
That's a significant claim, since according to the Venezuelan constitution,
Yeah.
the president must be a Venezuelan citizen from birth, and this could therefore have made Maduro ineligible to
That's
assume
crazy.
the presidency if true. A young Maduro was said to be academically mediocre, but politically expedient, becoming a class leader in Liceo Jose Avalos, the high school he attended in his hometown district of El Valle. He didn't graduate high school and became a bus driver, continuing his political activism, and became at some point a trade union union leader for public transport employees
That's
in the
crazy.
capital region. Maduro was drawn
Literally-
to Hugo Chavez, future president of Venezuela,
yeah,
as the
Hugo
latter made his
Chavez.
first foray into political action, and he became a member of the Bolivarian Revolution Movement, or MBR,
There he is, right there.
200 in the early
That
1990s.
has to be him, I'm pretty
Maduro
sure.
supported Chavez when he attempted a coup d'etat against the state in 1992 and became a key member of Chavez's apparatus when he did
Chavez is
eventually become
Chavez.
president in 1999. During Chavez's 14 years as president, Maduro occupied several key government positions. He became president of the National Assembly.
Oh my god, he's so young there. That's crazy. Sorry. Presidente de la Assam, I don't know. Asamblea Asamblea. Oh, so he's like the leader of the National Assembly. That's crazy. Thank you.
of Venezuela in 2005 and Minister of Foreign Affairs in 2006. All this despite having no academic qualifications other than a one-year course in political education received at an institution for aspiring communists in Cuba in the mid-1980s.
Oh, what?
Nevertheless,
They had
Maduro was
communism
seen
school in
as having
Cuba that
assumed
Maduro
his
went to?
charge at the very helm of Venezuelan diplomacy competently. During his 6 years at the helm of the ministry, he fostered a network of diplomatic relations intended to strengthen Venezuela's ties with countries on poor terms with the United States, as well as regional powers in Central and South America, especially those with leftist governments
there he
such
is
as
with,
Cuba, Bolivia, and
Fidel
Brazil.
Castro.
During this time, he
Oh,
also
dang.
displayed devoted loyalty to Chavez, something which would pay dividends as he
Can't
would
with the
assume
way
the
this
role
guy
of vice
says
president in
Chavez.
2012, before ultimately succeeding Chavez as the president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela on the 5th of March 2013. But while Maduro's rise to power was punctuated by a series of often quite rapid successes, his presidency would be met immediately by a stark dose of reality.
Yeah.
An economy in freefall, massive instability, hyperinflation, mass emigration, and massive protests indicative of a society brought to
I forget how big the number is, but I think Venezuelans have just... It's been millions of Venezuelans that have left the country.
its very knees. So, before we get to Maduro's presidency and the context under which it has unfolded, it is important to dive here into what has made Venezuela's economic situation so torrid, and why the years of Maduro's reign have been so disastrous in Venezuela. What's important to recall is that the decisions which led to Venezuela's well-documented economic collapse in the mid-2010s are not necessarily Maduro's or even Chavez's doing, at least not entirely. Rather, they're the result of a stream of decisions made by Venezuelan leaders over practically the length of the 20th century. At the heart of it all lies oil, the country's most valuable resource, its largest export, and in some ways, the source of all of its misery. Venezuela discovered vast oil
It's
reserves
true.
in the early 1900s. These oil reserves
The
were
natural resource curse, because like Venezuela, I'm sure he'll explain it in the video, but for purpose of me talking over the video. Venezuela has always relied on the natural resource to fund, that's their main export, right? Oil has been their main export, and when the world needs oil, it's a good export, right? When the world does not need oil, is bad. And then all the things that the Venezuelan government uses the oil export profits for, they can no longer, it's to pay for all the social services and stuff. It just not sustainable. It's sad, but
and remain, by some margin, the very largest in the world. According to OPEC data, Venezuela has proven reserves of around 303 billion barrels of oil, putting it far ahead of next-placed Saudi Arabia at 260 billion.
yeah, so that's crazy. So when whatever year it was, 1971 or 73, whenever the Yom Kippur War happened, when Israel attacked Palestine for one of the many times that they did it, all these Arab countries put an embargo on the United States and wouldn't sell us their oil, right? So then that was perfect opportunity for Venezuela, which apparently has way more oil than Saudi Arabia, to sell the world its oil. And it was great. Apart from the petroleum, the country's natural resources include natural gas, iron ore, gold, bauxite, diamonds, and other minerals. The national currency is the bolivar. Okay, blah, blah, blah.
Proven barrels. Successive Venezuelan governments capitalized on this oil wealth, resulting in Venezuela soon becoming widely classified as both a rentier state and a petrostate. And Venezuela's oil money certainly did lend itself to some good times. In the 1950s, with much of the world ravaged by the Second World War, Venezuela was the fourth richest country in the world.
That's
by
crazy.
GDP per capita,
Fourth richest
eclipsed only
country
by
in
the
the
United
world.
States, Switzerland, and New Zealand. But the good times could not last. You see, while oil made Venezuela one of the richest countries in the world, it also brought a string of problems, including two potentially lethal ones for the country's stability. The first was rampant and routine corruption by state leaders of practically every political orientation, along with massive embezzlement of oil profits throughout much of this period of affluence. The second was an economic phenomenon which befell Venezuela, known shorthand as Dutch disease.
Dutch
disease is a circumstance where a country becomes so dependent on a given resource that it causes all other industries to become neglected, thereby increasing the country's dependence on that one resource even further. The term was coined by The Economist to describe the decline in Dutch manufacturing following the discovery and rapid exploitation of gas in the country. Ironically, the term first appeared in a 1977 article with the Dutch case in mind, but the phenomenon it revealed was actually already occurring in Venezuela at that same time, and it may realistically have equally been called the Venezuelan virus when it was first described. In short, Venezuela's economy became so dependent on oil that it became closely tied to the market price of the resource, and therefore heavily influenced by world events which could cause that price to rise and to fall. That is precisely what happened in the 1970s and 1980s. First, in the 1970s, Venezuela experienced a significant economic boost. The 1973
Yom Kippur War, 1973, I was right the second time.
Reduced oil supply.
Okay, so not only the Yom Kippur War, but then the Iranian Revolution in 79. I forgot about that part.
Coming out of the Middle East. While this led to massive energy shortages in many parts of the world, it was great news for Venezuela, which profited handsomely from the resulting rise in the market price of oil. However, the period also saw corruption and oil money embezzlement reach its zenith. The Venezuelan NGO Pro Calidad de Vida estimated in 1997 that around $100 billion in oil funds were wasted or stolen by Venezuelan officials during this period. Moreover, the 1980s wouldn't be nearly as kind to Venezuela. The start of the decade saw oil prices come crashing down, and Venezuela's economy came crashing with it, to the extent that Venezuela was forced to seek foreign loans to keep afloat. With quality of life in Venezuela tanking as a result of the crash, public dissatisfaction with the existing government grew and reached a boiling point in 1989. The so-called Caracazo was an explosion of unrest on the streets of Caracas and other Venezuelan cities.
Oh man, it's just like straight up looting.
President Carlos Andrés Pérez announced a slew of austerity measures intended to secure a bailout loan from the IMF.
That's right.
When the protests were met with a brutal government crackdown, resulting in the deaths of possibly up to several thousand people, the credibility of the government disappeared entirely, and people began to yearn for change.
Oh, here we go. Hugo Chavez.
It was in this climate of strife that Hugo Chavez Frias, a soldier in the Venezuelan army with leftist leanings, sensed a bit of an opportunity. Chavez attempted a coup d'etat in 1999, which was unsuccessful and for which he ended up in prison. However, his image of a sort of Venezuelan Robin Hood vying for the good of the people was born, and following his release, he was ultimately elected president of Venezuela in 1999.
Democratically elected, just like with Donald Trump. Hugo Chavez, a man who attempted to coup the country, was democratically elected. This is why, you know, I was going to say democracy ain't it, but democracy is it. Yeah, he has a red hat because he's he's like a paramilitary. Like he's like literally Solid Snake, but for Venezuela.
She ended up in prison. However,
hold on, there you go. Yeah. See, he's literally Solid Snake. Or what is his name? Now, his name is not Solid Snake. The guy from Metal Gear Solid, right? Is his name just Snake? And watch, it's not even Snake that wears the beret. Freaking Hideo Kojima. Hold on. Let's just go to images, please. Metal Gear Solid Beret. We need to play this game. I need to play Metal Gear. Okay. All right, whatever. Yeah, so he's basically a paramilitary guy, or I don't know what he was, but he was a military guy, and he's like, there's no one here taking the reins. Let me try to take the reins. Big Boss is another name of him. That's crazy.
His image of a sort of Venezuelan Robin Hood vying for the good of the people was born, and following his release, he was ultimately elected president of Venezuela in 1999. Chavez's presidency of Venezuela is looked at differently by different people. Depending on political orientation, the 14 years of so-called Chavismo may be described as revolutionary, transformative, authoritarian, charitable, oppressive, and a whole lot more. There is no doubt that Chavez's social programs helped lift a lot of Venezuelans out of poverty, and his government provided benefits to Venezuelans that had not been provided to them until then by a state which didn't really depend on the citizens' tax money. However, Chavez also ensured strict control over the freedom of the press and progressively eliminated political plurality in Venezuela.
Yeah.
He also weakened the judiciary and withdrew from the Inter-American Court of Human Rights,
eliminate
an
term
international
limits?
criminal court with jurisdiction over practically all of Latin America. Chavez also squashed private enterprise and nationalized private businesses, including those providing services of great importance to the citizens, something that put Venezuela into having even more dependence on its imports. Venezuela's public debt also rose by almost 300% during his presidency. Perhaps above all, though, Chavez did nothing to change the dependence of Venezuela on its central resource of oil.
Because
when employees of the
okay, here's my argument for Hugo Chavez, right? How could he change the entire economy to be more dependent on manufacturing when literally he was, I don't know if he was elected to, to spend money, but like literally his whole thing and the reason why he was so popular was because he like helped so many people out of poverty. He helped like immediate, direct benefits, like cash in hand benefits, I think, to the Venezuelan people. And that's why he was so popular. And how did he pay for all of that? With the oil money. Instead of it going to a private company or shoot, even worse in their opinion, a private American company, they just, it was state-owned, government state-owned oil company. Mexico has one too. It's called Pemex.
state-run oil company PDVSA went on strike in 2002, Chavez responded by firing over 19,000 oil industry workers, something which caused Venezuela's oil-producing ability to contract. Moreover, Chavez also didn't set any money aside in a sovereign wealth fund to insulate Venezuela against the falls in oil price, which could be so critical for its monolithic economy, as he would well have known given the events of the Caracazo, which kick-started his ascent to power. In short, all these elements made the next looming economic crisis in Venezuela many times more disastrous than it otherwise would have been. By the time that crisis hit, Chavez had done something which meant he would not foot any of the blame for what was coming. He died. After his death from cancer in early 2013.
Bro, I never seen him without hair. That sucks. And Hugo Chavez had so much hair. He's bald. That's crazy.
Reins of the state wound up
oh
in the
my god, he doesn't even
Maduro,
look like himself.
Who'd been serving.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. Go back.
The reins of the state.
Oh, there's Nicolas Maduro right behind him. Crazy with a full. Homie, you should have cut your hair and given him a wig. God damn.
Wound up in the palms of Maduro, who'd been serving as his vice president since the previous year. And it would be only over the course of the following year that the full force of Venezuela's problems would erupt and Venezuela would buckle under the pressure.
Yeah, then 2013.
Tragically, the economic crisis,
remember,
which had struck
we definitely remember there was a lot of protest happening in 2013.
Venezuela in the late 1980s and had resulted in the Caracazo protests was actually small time in comparison with the crisis which struck Venezuela just after Chavez died. The 2013 Venezuelan crisis was, on a national level, more disastrous even than the fall of the Soviet Union and the Great Depression. Oil
That's
prices
crazy.
fell, and Venezuela's exposed economy, by now dependent on oil for 90% of its revenue, just
Damn,
crumbled.
90% of its
As defaults rose,
revenue
foreign lenders stopped
is
issuing loans to Venezuelans.
dependent on
Due to its
oil.
massive borrowing,
Jeez.
Venezuela was not in a position to continue importing everyday goods as it had been doing before. The cost of
So now that's why there's like food
skyrocketed,
shortages.
Hyperinflation took hold, and the value of the Venezuelan bolivar, the national currency, plummeted overnight. Millions of Venezuelans fled abroad, and by 2020, the Marshall Center reported millions of Venezuelans were seeking temporary refuge in neighboring South American countries, with around 1.8 million Venezuelans sheltering in Colombia alone. Throughout this, Maduro stood impotent and simply continued the tried and tested autocrat's tactic of clinging to power as the country weltered around him. Massive protests had broken out immediately in the wake of Chávez's death, and these only grew as hyperinflation struck Venezuela and the price of everyday commodities reached astounding levels. However, Maduro continued to enjoy the support of the military, something which would prove crucial in the context of the spiraling economic situation. The protests were, resultingly, brutally put down under the new leader's orders. Understandably, the Venezuelan public had not taken to their new leader, and within 1 year of taking office, as the country crumbled under the dire economic conditions, Maduro's approval rating stood at a paltry 25%. It is
they're probably
partly
faked.
this very visible lack of popularity which made Maduro's re-election as president in 2018 appear highly dubious. Officially, Maduro won
I think they
re-election
cheated
with
the
around
numbers in
67% of
2018.
the vote. The Venezuelan opposition, however, disputed the result of the election and declared the results illegitimate, further claiming that this made President of the National Assembly, Juan Guaido, the interim president. This was supported by the United States,
Look,
which
there's
refused
Mike
to recognize
Pence.
the official
Mike Pence. Damn, that's how old this is.
victory of the elections by Maduro, and instead recognized Guaido as president, a position shared
And
at
Nancy
some point
Pelosi,
by
what the
around 60 other countries, including
That's
most of the
crazy.
EU. This immediately left the Venezuelan dictator in a sort of limbo. Crippling sanctions were introduced against the government, which only added to the failing economy, mass emigration, and large-scale protests. With the inflation rate still spiraling, sanctions against the country, a united opposition, and diaspora, it may have appeared like the socialist government of Venezuela in the absence of Hugo Chavez might be on its last legs. Now you might ask, why was Chavez's popularity in Venezuela so high, while Maduro's had, since the outset, always been so low? Well, the answer to that is pretty complicated, and it likely spans a number of explanations. However, suffice to narrow it down to the fact that Chavez had three things on his profile that Maduro does not really have. The first was charisma. Chavez was well-liked. He was a swashbuckling fellow. He could be recalled singing mariachi ballads at public events. In contrast, Maduro is stiff, sullen, and awkward. Chavez had also been a paratrooper in the Venezuelan military, and his Rambo-style coup d'etat had earned him a reputation as a folk hero, while Maduro had started life as a bus driver and had not entered power with anything close to the same political acumen that Chavez had. Secondly, Chavez, through his public programs, had a number of PR victories on his profile that Maduro did not. His spending on social programs, targeting the elimination
He knew
of
how to
poverty
toot
and
his own
mass
horn.
education projects, painted his regime as a friend of the people and a force for good, while quietly masking the targeting of foreign companies, which helped sustain Venezuela's GDP, as well as a complete inability to diversify the one-dimensional Venezuelan economy. It didn't help that Chavez had spent big on social problems designed to improve the living situation of everyday Venezuelans, which they did, but these programs were only sustainable insofar as the price and demand for Venezuela's oil remained relatively stable. And that brings us to the third element that Chavez profited from and Maduro didn't. And that was simple luck. Just as before, the economy of Venezuela under Chavez
The China
remained
shock.
entirely tied to oil. Yet practically, the entirety of Chavez's reign was punctuated by a high demand for oil, especially in the early 2000s when China began buying up Venezuelan oil hand over fist. As Charles Shapiro, former US ambassador to Venezuela, told the Wharton School of Business, quoting, "In many ways, Hugo Chavez was the luckiest guy in the world. When Chavez became president, Venezuelan oil sold for $8 a barrel. It reached $140 at one
crazy.
point and was around 115 or so when he died and Maduro began his tenure." One analyst took it a step further, remarking to Al Jazeera, quoting again, "The biggest sucker in Venezuelan history is the guy who is going to follow Chavez as president." In essence, almost none of the economic success that Venezuela experienced under Chavez can be attributable to any economic mastery. In contrast, much of the misery experienced by Venezuela after his death can be directly attributed to a severe lack of foresight by Chavez and his government.
Yep,
while
lack
he was
of
in power.
foresight for
You see,
sure.
rather than see the past economic failures of Venezuela as the result of corruption and lack of diversification of Venezuelan industries that it had been, Chavez instead decided to point the finger of blame at the capitalist and neoliberal entities he claimed were taking advantage of Venezuelan resources for their own benefit. Correspondingly, he made sure to impose disfavorable conditions upon those who would seek to exploit Venezuela's oil and resolutely refused to replace it with a domestic apparatus for refining the oil, something that in Venezuela's case was badly needed. Chavez focused his energy instead on solidifying his rule over Venezuela through an iron grip, earning himself the nickname Hugo Boss from the Journal of Foreign Policy in 2006, while continuing social programs intended to secure relatively good graces from the Venezuelan people. Now, while Maduro was not responsible for the mess that was left to him by Chavez and his predecessors, he was responsible for how his administration would react to that mess. And that, as it turned out, was to commit the exact same pattern of authoritarian behavior pursued
because he
by
had to
his
double
military,
down.
suppressing political freedom and sabotaging Venezuela's economic prospects by chasing away foreign corporations. All this interspaced with a healthy dose of anti-American, anti-neoliberal rhetoric. But Maduro did make one move, which was entirely his own, which even Chavez had not put forward as a realistic plan of action by Venezuela, and which catapulted Venezuela into the world's attention in late 2023, and that was to threaten to invade and annex the territory of a sovereign nearby nation. We're talking, of course, about Venezuela's claims to the Essequibo region of Guyana, along with its resources. Now, the Essequibo topic is something that we've actually already covered here on Mora Graphics, and so we're not going to devote too much time to the subject.
I had no idea that Nicolas Maduro tried to pull his own Argentinian Falkland Islands war. I think that's what this is.
One additional thing to understand about Venezuela's oil in the context of the Essequibo, and that's not just its abundance, but also its quality. In very broad terms, oil can be measured in terms of both its lightness, with lighter oil requiring much less difficulty in extraction than heavy oil, and the presence of certain chemical impurities such as sulfur. A common measure for the weight of crude oil is the American Petroleum Institute Gravity Index, or API. Oil with a high API will move easily from the reservoir to producing well. Meanwhile, low sulfur means that the oil will be less corrosive on the producing well and thus reduce the cost of refining it. According to McKinsey, Venezuelan crude oil has an API between 16 and 30, whereas the Saudi range is between 28 and 51. This means that Venezuela's oil requires a much more intensive operation to refine it, a procedure requiring specialist knowledge and on-site access to the oil site, which Venezuela, under Chavez and Maduro, became rather unwilling to provide. And as you might have suspected by now, the oil found in Guyana in 2015 is considered to be very...
Whoa. It's good to see you. Welcome in. We're not covering Inland Empire politics, but we're talking about Nicolas Maduro and Venezuelan politics. So yeah, welcome in. Hope you're doing well.
High quality, being both of a high API and quite low in sulfur. This, in addition to the other resources offered by the Essequibo region, as pointed out in our other video on the topic, is many times more alluring to Venezuela's iridescent posturing than it would have normally been. So, what's next for Venezuela under Maduro? Well, unfortunately for Venezuelans, it doesn't look like Maduro is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. In the years since the turbulent beginning of his presidency, Maduro has done little to improve the state of the economy, but continued to make moves which have further isolated Venezuela dramatically and increased sanctions upon it. Maduro has regularly bashed the US and its allies and hampered ties with the EU, whose ambassador to Venezuela was expelled in 2021. Meanwhile, the currency in Venezuela continued its runaway inflation in the years since 2013, with $1 US being valued at around 4 million bolivars in 2021. Although Maduro's administration did provide a remedy to this problem by simply chopping off several zeros and reintroducing the bolivar as a new currency every couple of years. Maduro also made no attempt to stem the flow of people leaving Venezuela, resulting in the massive decline in the Venezuelan population mentioned at the beginning of this video. He has, however, despite the overwhelming...
How can this man live for at this point? Well, see, like, the problem is that everyone in the Venezuelan government, like, needs him to stay in power so they can stay in the Venezuelan government, right? You know, all the military, all the different employees and stuff. Like we already knew that Hugo Chavez would like fire people if they weren't his supporters. So like I'm sure it's just as bad under Maduro. And I would imagine he would just straight up just yeah, he has power, and he's been in power for so long that everyone else who's in power it like owes it all to him, or at least to Hugo Chavez. And it's just like they're just struggling to keep power. It's like not even about governing a country anymore. It's not even about providing for people. It's about just literally staying in power, because if you're not in power anymore, then these people pretty much want your head, right? Nicolas Maduro is literally starving people, so once he there is no like, he can just retire. It's either he goes with power in hand, kicking and screaming, like how Hugo Chavez died. He literally cancer took him out. Or he like he can't even step down at this point because he's committed so many crimes. He's gonna get prosecuted. He's done so many. In order to keep power, he's done so much like human rights violations. That it's like the only way he can stay a free man is if he's still the president of Venezuela. And everyone else underneath him needs him to be president because they also help in, they're part of the problem. It's just like, Nazi Germany, essentially.
Overwhelming opposition to his rule made some moves intended to ensure his political survival. One of these was to target Juan Guaido, freezing his assets and forcing him ultimately into exile in the US. This did somewhat work, as the opposition chose quietly to drop its backing of him, and even the EU downscaled its description of him from the rightful president of Venezuela
This is
to, quote,
America's future.
privileged interlocutor.
It literally is America's future because Donald Trump is exactly this type of president, right? So we'll see. We'll see if the United States continues to have people in politics that are like Latin American politicians, then yeah, we're just gonna have the same type of democracy. Oh yeah, I got my Bernie shirt. Just so that way, we're covering a socialist country, but I don't think they're really socialist anymore. But I was like, Bernie shirt goes on, so that way people don't assume I'm MAGA or whatever. Although, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. So on Mamdani hanging out with Donald Trump. No, I'm joking. But yeah, I've been feeling the burn since 2016. So but yeah, back to Venezuela. It's bad there, and I don't know. Maduro's going to either die like Muammar Gaddafi from I think he's from Libya, or no, he's from Egypt, right? He's gonna die like those dictators, or he's gonna have to flee and live in hiding for the rest of his life, or he could just take it into his own hands, I guess. I don't know. He has a few options. They're running out though, because I don't know if if the plan for the Trump or if one of the Trump administration's plans is to like SEAL Team 6 him, But I don't know. We'll see. It's just pretty intense,
Working towards a democratic future for Venezuela. But Maduro has been making strides to consolidate some friends in the region and abroad, chiefly for his own benefit. In February, he welcomed Sergei Lavrov, foreign minister of his longtime ally Russia, who reaffirmed his country's support for the Venezuelan leader. Maduro has also sought to coax support from other left-leaning political leaders in the region, traveling to Brazil to meet leftist President Lula, having been banned from entering Brazil by its president Jair Bolsonaro in 2019, and
Lula's
ostentatiously
gone.
backing Mexico
Bolsonaro's
in a very
going to be in jail, I
with
think.
Ecuador by withdrawing Venezuelan diplomats from the country. Maduro's grip on power over the last few years has also been dealt a boost produced by the, at times, abject disorganization of the Venezuelan opposition, which dropped its support for Juan Guaido and regularly failed to streamline its representation at even local elections.
Yeah.
But
because in Venezuela and a lot of other countries that are like that far gone into authoritarianism, they just silence their opponents, just like Putin in Russia. Someone's getting a little too popular. A journalist is covering a story that's digs a little too deep into your corruption, disappear them, and that's what happens.
Chance for some change at the coming election. With the next presidential election scheduled for the summer of 2024, this year, the opposition has chosen former diplomat Edmundo Gonzalez as the main opposition candidate. And as Reuters reported, he has been polling well at around 46% of the vote, with only 21% claiming that they would back Maduro, according to that same poll. However, if recent history has shown us anything, it is one thing for a dictator to be unpopular, and it is another thing entirely for him to actually be unseated. Who knows what will become of Venezuela in the coming months and years?
Okay, so this video is from a year ago. We still don't know what's going to come of Venezuela in the upcoming months and years. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's really up in the air. Nicolas Maduro rookie card pool. It's up in the air, I think before Donald Trump or whatever, the Trump administration, before they took out those boats, people were like, yeah, Maduro, we're not going to do anything to Venezuela. We just have to condemn Venezuela to keep the American Venezuelan population happy, because the American Venezuelan population is very similar to the Cuban American population, where they're like, I don't care what politics are, just as long as it's not socialism. Like, I will do anything politically other than socialism or communism, right? So Marco Rubio, again, I'm calling it. I've been telling literally everyone, I'm like, put your money on Marco Rubio. You gotta watch him. He's gonna sneak up from behind. I guarantee it. He's like honestly, I'm not gonna say the most competent person, but he knows how to carry himself. He knows how to. He's like JD Vance, but if JD Vance wasn't like, a dumb teenage boy. Marco Rubio is a man for sure. I mean, he had to learn with being called Little Marco Rubio when he couldn't drink the water. Damn, how old was that? That was old. But here, I wanted to show you guys this video of Nicolas Maduro. This is the little speech that they took and turned into a song.
Not war, not war. Just peace, just peace, just peace.
He's saying
forever,
yes,
forever,
peace.
forever. Peace forever. No crazy war. No crazy war. No crazy war. Please, please, please. Yes, peace. Peace forever. Peace forever.
What is this, bro?
Victory forever. Defeats.
Victory forever.
Not war.
Peace. So that took place in October. Yeah. Oh, hey. Exactly. Is this not some Donald Trump behavior, where he's like just making stuff up and repeating it over and over? I mean, I'm sure Donald Trump would never be able to speak another language other than English. I mean, he could barely speak English, right? But it's just like, what is this? And he did this by himself. He used his own little Google Translate on his janky ass Samsung. I don't even know if that's Samsung or if it's like a Huawei or something. No, watch it's like OnePlus or something. He did this by himself. It's hilarious. And then they turned it into a song. Okay. Yeah, no.
Paz de Venezuela es
no iPhones
conectarse
for sure.
con los movimientos
That's
estudiantiles
basically
y los
capitalism.
estudiantes.
I mean, American
Con el
imperialism.
movimiento estudiantil venezolano en una sola voz para decir: war, no war, yes, peace.
I can't. His BlackBerry. Okay, Obama.
No queremos una guerra en el Caribe ni en Sudamérica.
His banger.
No. Not war. No a la guerra loca.
Look at how he's dancing. All these people don't know how to dance. Oh man, what is this? I mean, the music is great, don't get me wrong. It's like literally people can't get food and they're forced to do this stuff. Yeah, like, okay, so these people that are behind him, these are all people that are like complicit in the destruction of Venezuela. You know, you know, she's trying hard to dance to that song, so is this homie. Like they're just doing this because they have to, you know? Hey man, let's hope they are feeding them. Yeah, they probably, you know, this is like really some North Korea bullshit where they're probably like, you know, you have to cry when you see the supreme leader because everyone loves the supreme leader, right? Like that's the level that Nicolas Maduro is almost at, you know? Like I'm sure there's people that are like, yes, I'll go to his protest. I mean, I'll go to his little what is this? It's just a little White House event or something. And he's like, okay, let's drop the new song. And then all the people in the audience have to dance. It's like, you know the North Korean ladies that went to the Olympics to like support their Olympians, you know? This is what this is. They're like being forced to do it. What is this dance move, bro? Yeah, see? Look. Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good. Thank you, New York Post, for putting that out. I just know I'd be thanking them a lot, but there's actually a lot of like elite Venezuelans that like don't even live in Venezuela, they just live in Miami. And you know, it's like wealthy children of people who, you know, don't want to live in Venezuela because of course they don't even have, you know, iPhones there, right? So they just move. They just move because they have money, you know, and offshore accounts and stuff. So, but okay. Let's get on to a little bit more info on this. Okay, so here we can actually get into actual news stuff. This is from the Latin Times. Is published, oh crap, today, literally this morning. Maduro reportedly reluctant to leave power because he doesn't believe he would get lasting amnesty. Yeah, no shit, you wouldn't get any shit. Hold on, I need to like pull up a video of how bad the Venezuelan life is. Here we go. From 60 Minutes.
Over the past
Although I don't 60 minutes from whatever. We're not going to split hairs
few
here.
weeks, the long, frosty relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela reached a boiling point. The United States has blown up at least 10 vessels, killing more than 36 alleged drug smugglers.
That's
most
crazy.
Of them off the
That's
coast
crazy.
of Venezuela.
What I can say,
I didn't really see the like drone strike footage, but it's literally just Call of Duty drone strike footage. Yeah, bro, just had an AK. I know, it's crazy. The Venezuelan military is like teaching the Venezuelan people how to, you know, defend themselves if America invades or whatever. Okay, this is where I feel like the 60 Minutes bias is already showing. I don't even know who this dude is. I don't have his little name thingy up, but I don't know if he's from the American government. But he was saying that the Venezuelan government is a criminal organization. Bro, that's like saying you know, that's so wrong. That's like invalidating all the years that Venezuela was like a legitimate democracy, you know? It's I don't know. I don't know how deeply tied the drug cartels are with the Venezuelan government, but it can't be more than how it is in El Salvador. Am I right? Am I wrong? You know? Like literally Nayib Bukele has been doing backdoor deals with the drug cartels there in order to, you know, get them to like chill out and not be as violent on the streets. But I mean, that's only lasting for so long. Venezuela is a significantly larger country. And I just don't believe that. Well, I mean, who knows? But I just don't believe that Maduro's focus is like sending drugs to America. You know, if he really wanted to make money, I don't think it would be drugs. I think it would be back, you know, in oil reserves. But you know, like I said, it's not about making money. It's about surviving. So you know, maybe that very well could be it. Maybe Maduro was like, man, we don't have any reliable sources of income. Let's turn to drugs. I don't know. This dude literally said the quiet part out loud. He's like, Venezuela's sitting on the largest oil reserves and largest, you know, rare earth mineral things, which are going to be super valuable for the 21st century, you know, because we need to make lithium batteries for EVs and all those other minerals that are used in the EV motors and the computers. You know, we're like going to hit another chip shortage soon, I think. The prices of computer RAM are skyrocketing, and I really don't know why. I just saw the like a meme this morning. So, but yeah, I don't know. I really wouldn't say that the United States would go all the way to Venezuela for their oil. Like, why would the United States need to invade Venezuela like how we invaded Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever other countries in the Middle East we invaded to steal their oil? Qatar, maybe? We would not need to do that. Like, all we need to do is just have Venezuela open up its markets so that way American investors can go in there and invest in the oil extraction industry, right? So I don't know why. Maybe it's like the Trump administration with Pete Hegseth and all of them trying to be like, oh yeah, let's make the military more woke, you know, let's make the military more manly, whatever, you know. But like, man, could you imagine storming the beaches of Venezuela, like it's the beaches of Normandy? Like, that's crazy. I could not imagine American, you know, troops. I could not imagine the U.S. government sending American troops to do an on-the-ground invasion of Venezuela. That just does not make sense. The blowing up the boats and stuff, and, you know, maybe, like I said, trying to do some like some covert operations, you know, like SEAL Team 6 in there to like go take them out or whatever, or shoot, like even funding the opposition. Like, I don't even think there is a legitimate opposition to fund. But you know, we could do like a Bay of Pigs thing again, you know, try to get him out. But have you seen the meme where it says when America finds out the sebaceous glands produce oil, and it shows on our military? And yep, I know this is like a month ago, but man, I feel like Donald Trump saying the F word would have been all over the place, especially like that. Hold on, let's run that back real quick. Sorry.
Reports that President Maduro offered the U.S. a stake in the country's oil to avoid conflict.
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States.
Maduro has repeatedly called U.S. accusations that he oversees a narco state, quote, disinformation.
Okay, so there. I know Trump saying the F word is crazy. I know. Like Mr. I don't even drink alcohol, but you know, him using cussing is crazy. I was gonna say that if Maduro already offered the United States to have, you know, opened up their markets to invest, why haven't American companies started investing? That's crazy. So that's what leads me to believe that it's not about oil. That's what leads me to believe that. I think it's just like an easy little flex that you know, it's like, you know, you go pick on the nerdy kid at school, right? You know that's going to be an easy person to pick on. You're not going to go pick on the, you know, baseball player or the wrestler. You're going to pick on the nerd. These people, you know, Maduro's already losing power. The people are starving. It's bad all the way around. Of like it's easy. Easy targets for the Trump administration to just, you know, make America look powerful, appease those conservative Venezuelans here in the United States, appease those conservative Cubans here in the United States. But other than that, I really don't think it's about the oil. But I don't know. Most to be internal is what I should say, right? I want the own Venezuelan people to, you know, hold their leaders accountable, right? I don't know. The United States is not in position to be helping anyone spread democracy right now. So it would have to be purely a selfish reason for the United States to go in and take out Maduro. But yeah, ICE protests that were happening in Los Angeles. Yeah, it's the sanctions. The U.S. are part of the reason. Yeah, so part of the no, it's okay. I'll explain. I've taken a couple of Latin American politics class at school, and the sanctions that the U.S. put on Venezuela did not help. It's literally like the sanctions that the U.S. put on Cuba, right? It's basically the United States is not going to trade with you if you trade with Venezuela or if you trade with Cuba, right? So it literally cut off these countries, these nations from trading with the Western world, essentially, right? And because Venezuela was their main export is oil, and like we saw earlier with that one British guy saying that it's Dutch disease, that they literally developed no other industry. They didn't there's no other manufacturing. Like it's literally just oil, government jobs, and then like, you know, the military, and then like all these informal workers, like the lady who was, I don't know what she was selling. It looked like plantains or something in the bag. The one who said she's going to Spain in a few months. Like she's just a street vendor, you know? So it's bad. And you know, the sanctions, they're bad because obviously it cuts off the people. It's hurting the people that are also being hurt by this dictator, right? But I guess the idea, and even like Joe Biden was like, we're going to continue the sanctions on Venezuela because it's to, you know, make the conditions worse, with the hopes that the people will rise up on their own, you know, and say, hey, Nicolas Maduro, you're not letting the rest of the world trade with us because America, you know, says that you're, you know, not giving us our rights or whatever. And yeah, it's true. Why do we have to wait in these long lines for groceries? I really wish I could find the video because I don't want to just like say the bread lines thing without there being bread lines.
Phil Gunson in Caracas. He's lived in Venezuela for 26 years.
It's a complicated thing. You know, like most things in Latin America, yes, the U.S. has had a heavy hand in making things more complicated. You know, U.S. has had a hand in, you know, a lot of atrocities. U.S. has had a hand in supporting a lot of the atrocities that happened in Latin America. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Latin America is really the only other place, you know, in the world that has had democracy that is like American democracy, right? And it's really been like the only other people in the world where, uh, they've always had democracy, right? Like after all the Latin American countries had their revolution and broke away from Spain or Portugal or whoever, right? It was they immediately put in democracy. Sure, maybe the democracy wasn't representing of all people, but it's literally always been democracy, a liberal democracy rule of, or not liberal democracy, but a democratic rule of government, right? It's not like, okay, yeah, they've gone to dictators, but they've never been like, okay, let's go back to having the Catholic Church rule us or whatever. It's always been the people of Latin America saying, well, we're just like the United States. We declared independence from our colonial power, and now we are, a country where people are more equal to each other than it was in the old world, right? So it's very, very complicated, but ultimately, what's happening in Venezuela right now is purely the cause of Maduro and his government staying in power, and there's no amnesty. He's done, he can't atone for his sins. I mean, probably the only way he can atone for it is by going to trial, right? Because he's done so much bad, or been a part of suppressing these people, like much like here how Donald Trump has essentially turned ICE into this like secret military, brown shirt type thing. Maduro has done that too. He has like, let me see if I can find it up. Military. I don't know if it'd be officially listed. Maybe. So the Army, Air Force, Navy, strategic operations. Oh no. Okay, well anyways, there's like a secret military group in Venezuela that they like, their whole thing is if people are going out on the streets and protesting, we're going to subvert that and pretend to be protesters and start violence. They like basically don't wear uniforms. So Maduro has done good in, securing all the powers to like not securing, like dividing up all the powers, right? That could oppose him or that, would be a check on his power. They're all like loyal to him now, or they have to be, because that's the only way to survive. No way Mr. Donald Trump, who was like, the Republican Party taking us to Iraq and Afghanistan was the worst thing that could have happened to America in a long time. There's no way that I could picture literally, don't they have the dark matter camo on their weapons? Yes, I think they do. The only way that Donald Trump could I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry, but whatever. Boots on the ground. Yeah. There's no way. There's no way that the minute that United States gets involved in a boots on the ground operation, no, it's okay. It's okay. I love the goofs. It's always going to be a fun broadcast here. It's never 100% serious. The boots on the ground is a long-term commitment, right? We literally were in Afghanistan for 20 plus years. We're still not out of Iraq. It would be bad. And then, like he said, the United States would have to be responsible for, reorganizing this whole government, kicking out all the bad loyalists, all the corruption, because you best believe it's corrupt. But yeah, it would be a lot, and I would say the United States should not get involved in it. No. I'm an isolationist, so we'll see. As far as the boats, DVA, I don't know. I don't know if they were civilians. I don't know if they were drug dealers. I don't know if they were military. The Trump administration hasn't really given us answers on that, and it seems like they're just more interested in saying, yeah, these are, we're taking care of the drug problems. I nah, it's not. Okay. Back to this article by Demian Bio, I guess. Venezuelan's authoritarian president Nicolas Maduro is reluctant to agree to any deal to leave power. Because he doesn't believe he would get lasting amnesty, according to a new report. The Wall Street Journal noted that Maduro only feels safe among loyalists, of course, because he's literally isolated everyone else. Gotcha. There's not... Okay. And both him and his inner circle believe the Trump administration is bluffing with its military campaign off the country's coast. The only way to oust him, they claim, would be physically sending troops to Venezuela, something they considered unlikely. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Trump could surprise us. The calculation for Maduro is that he will always be safer here than anywhere else. Phil Gunson, analyst for the International Crisis Group, told the outlet. Moreover, staying in Venezuela under a new government could see them face prosecution for different crimes. Yeah, including drug trafficking, because then the new government might be more willing to work with America and, you know, turn over Maduro and who knows what other people in the government that are actual, you know, drug trafficking and doing those things. Yes, taking kickbacks in the energy industry and more. And the regime believes that the government led by opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who has won the Nobel Peace Prize, would be uncompromising. In a new Freedom Manifesto, she said the regime must be held accountable. Another report claimed that U.S. officials also believe it would be hard to convince Maduro to leave, but because he could be executed by Cuban handlers. That's crazy. But I don't know. The Cubans have like I guess like a crazy like KGB trained Secret Service type thing. I don't know what the Cuban like KGB is called, but they would also, Cuba would send their own, like much like how Russia, or I should say the Soviet Union did back in the day in like helping these different socialist and communist guerrilla groups and stuff. They helped out in Venezuela and Cuba KGB. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what they're called, but it's literally when Cuba first turned communist and the Soviet Union was like, hell yeah, we're going to help you train your own KGB secret police so that way you could make sure that, you know, Western spies don't come in and take over, right? So the Cuban KGB went to Venezuela to help Hugo Chavez weed out, you know, his opposition. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. No one's perfect here, but man, there's lots of things that could happen. It really could be. I don't know, man. Make sure the Pink Panther doesn't get in. Hell yeah. Axios detailed that the assessment took place as Trump plans to speak directly with Maduro, even as the U.S. continues its military buildup off its coast. Trump said Tuesday that he might talk with Maduro. If we can save lives, if we can do things the easy way, that's fine. And if we have to do it the hard way, that's fine too. I don't know what the hard way is, but it's probably just more bombing. Political scientist Cameron Beatriz Fernandez also told the outlet Maduro is willing to engage in dialogue, but not to concede anything. For Maduro, dialogue is a charade, a photo op. He is willing to talk, but not negotiate, she added. Yeah, because he has no negotiation. You know how Donald Trump was like, Vladimir Zelensky, you have no cards. You have no cards. You have a bad hand. You have to listen to like what Putin is saying in Russia. Not that I'm supporting Putin in Russia, but like Donald Trump was like, you have no cards. To Zelensky, you know who really doesn't have any cards? Maduro. He has like no allies. Donald Trump used to admire him. Donald Trump used to look up to him. But, you know, That was terrible. Yeah. So, Donald Trump is the American version of Nicolas Maduro, except I don't know. Donald Trump was never a bus driver. I don't even know if Donald Trump Vladimir Glutton. Yes, that's it. I don't know if Donald Trump even knows how to drive, honestly. First off, who needs to drive in New York City? But like, would he ever drive himself? I've never seen that man drive. And yeah, so crazy. I would suspect Maduro, he should get no asylum, no concessions, no nothing. Okay. Here. I wanted to share this article that we could, or it's actually from WBUR, NPR, Fresh Air, or whatever this is. Okay, from November 25th. That's literally, does he drive a golf cart? Does Trump drive a golf cart? Yeah, you know what, he has, because that's where we saw that's where we saw Donald Trump caked up in his little white golfing pants, Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Vladimir Gluten. But no, I think Glutton is good, because Vladimir Glutton, he's hungry. He keeps trying to eat Ukraine, like you gotta be satisfied with what you got, brother. You don't need Ukraine. All right, let's listen to WBUR.
President Trump's main military advisor, General Dan Kane, the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, traveled to Puerto Rico Monday to visit troops amassing in the Caribbean. Meanwhile, in the last 24 hours, the Trump administration declared Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro the head of a terrorist group. The accusation is that Maduro heads a drug cartel which coordinates with the international gang Tren de Aragua, which Maduro denies.
The Pentagon says the new terrorist label gives the U.S. military more options against Maduro. Already, the U.S. Navy has posted the world's largest aircraft carrier in and around the Caribbean. This pressure campaign is being amplified by voices of Venezuelan exiles in America who support the anti-Maduro opposition. A lot of those exiles live in Doral, Florida, just outside Miami. On a trip there last week, I felt the Venezuelan presence. The Spanish language at the kids' soccer practice at a public park, the restaurants making arepas and tequeños. An estimated 2 in 5 people in Doral are from Venezuela,
Arepas.
Many with stories of persecution. Gustavo Garagori was born in Caracas. In the late 1990s, he campaigned for politicians opposed to socialist candidate Hugo Chavez, handing out flyers and speaking at community meetings. And then, after Chavez was elected president in 1998, Garagori got phone threats.
So try to do bad things to me with the persecution and, call phones, call you. Of course, yes. Yeah, call.
Did they threaten you?
Yeah, of course, yes. Tried me many times.
He says Chavez's henchmen even assaulted him.
One time when I go back to my home from the movies, people in a car assault me. I said, what the hell? And they say me, you are target on us because you don't support Presidente Chavez, and I kill you. Yeah, of course, yes, and he hit me. I'm my girlfriend in that moment too.
Garagori left Venezuela shortly afterwards, and he's been in the U.S. for 23 years. Now he's president of the Venezuelan American Republican Club of Miami-Dade. Why is the time to take out?
Why does he come to America and immediately join the Miami Republican Club? Why? Because the Cubans took it over. It's not even should be called the Republican Club. It should just be the Cuban Venezuelan Club of Miami, because there was no active Republicans in Miami. And when all the Cuban immigrants came over, they're like, okay, sure, we'll register as Republicans, And now there's this long-lasting foothold in the Republican Party that is like panders to these like anti-communist Cubans and now Venezuelans. Which is crazy because, at the start of the Trump administration, like they kicked out the Venezuelan refugees. Like, y'all remember the one Venezuelan guy that got deported to El Salvador? Yeah, Florida's whack.
But not just Venezuela's socialist government, but Cuba's as well.
Cuba having a control Venezuela. That's the main reason the United States go them Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. Cuba is la cabeza de la culebra. It's the head of the snake.
Cuban natives in Florida are closely allied with Venezuelan exiles. Cuban-American George Jane also helps run the Venezuelan-American Club here. He visits Washington often to meet with members of Congress, and he also reaches out to the Trump administration, and he says all military options against Maduro should be on the table.
Maduro's a bully. He's always been a bully. So how do you take care of a bully? You punch him as hard as you can on the nose and you give him a bloody nose. That's what the United States is going to do to him. It's up to him whether he wants to live out peacefully or there's going to be some sort of intervention.
Do you trust this administration to do what you want it to do?
I think, of course. I think that Donald Trump has no filter. I think that he's a strong president. He's a president that we needed a long time ago in this country. What he says that he's going to do, he's going to deliver on it. A lot of what these regimes do around the world, it separates the nucleus of the family. When your parents have to leave everything behind, you have to start from new, separate your brothers, your sisters, your uncles. That's one story that we all have in common.
One man who shares that family story is Florida's Marco Rubio. His parents left Cuba in the 1950s, and he's a staunch anti-communist. Rubio is, of course, Secretary of State and President Trump's national security advisor. Rubio just declared Maduro the head of a foreign terrorist group. And adding to this chorus is this year's Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, heads the Venezuelan opposition from an undisclosed location in Caracas. Here she is, speaking remotely this month to the American Business Forum in Miami.
Maduro started this war, and President Trump is ending that war.
Amazing.
Iran has turned Venezuela into its satellite. They're building drones, armed drones in our country.
That's right. I forgot to say that one of the partnerships that Venezuela has is with Iran, apparently. That's crazy. I don't know how much of a partnership it is, but like that's literally the only ally they have. And I think this Machado lady, I think she's a Zionist. I hate to say, I don't know. We'll find out together soon.
Venezuelan financial system to launder their resources for groups such as Hezbollah and other terrorist groups to operate.
Put these messages together, and you get claims of Maduro the socialist, the authoritarian, the terrorist, and drug kingpin, according to the Trump administration.
Iran provides drones to
the
Russia.
Right political moment for
that makes
Maduro
sense.
critics, says David Smildy, longtime Venezuela scholar at Tulane University.
They had this message that fit in with what Donald Trump wanted. Trump was campaigning on this idea that immigrants were the source of crime, violence, and drugs. And along comes this narrative that says, hey, Nicolas Maduro is sending the train de Aragua to the United States. It fits really well with that. And it fits really well with Marco Rubio's long-term desire for regime change.
But Smiley says there's a problem. The exiles are pushing partial truths and misinformation. For instance, the accusation that Maduro heads a cartel.
Maduro and other government officials likely know about some of their officials being involved in drug trafficking, but the idea that he's a kingpin or that there's a cartel, a cartel actually has a meaning. It means that different drug trafficking networks are coordinating to try and control prices, control suppliers, control markets. And there is no cartel in Venezuela for Nicolas Maduro to control or anybody else.
And as for terrorism, Smiley says assumed links between Maduro and Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah are what he calls complete exaggerations. He says there's a long and sordid history of political exiles in the world using dodgy evidence to lure America into war. Iraq in the Bush administration, Libya in the Obama years, and Cuba and the Bay of Pigs in the Kennedy administration. Smiley says none of those interventions ended well.
Yeah, they haven't. And are we going to do that again?
Hungary is a...
Are we going to do that again? I don't know. I hope we don't. I see no reason to go to send troops or shoot to even send more boats or drones or anything to Venezuela. Just let them sort it out on their own. We can't help them. We can't help anyone. We can't even help ourselves. So, all right, I'm going to save the Marco Rubio thing. I don't know if I want to read this anymore. Here, okay. I found this New York Times article talking about the oil that they were supposedly going to be opening up their markets to. Here, let's see. Venezuela, when is this from? Oh, October 10th, 2025 by Anatoly I can't say these people's names. Okay. Venezuelan officials hoping to end their country's clash with the United States offered the Trump administration a dominant stake in Venezuela's oil and other mineral wealth in discussions that lasted for months, which is crazy. Because you remember one of the main things that Donald Trump was trying to bargain with Zelensky was that the United States would have, mining permit, or I don't know, whatever, the ability to mine rare earth minerals from Ukraine. Like, I understand how important these minerals are to the future of technology, but like, I swear to God, it seems like people in government are making a bigger deal than it is. Or I should say, like, people in government think it's this new thing, and I don't know how much of a new thing it's going to be. I mean, I know that like China is the #1 exporter of rare earth minerals right now, which is, bad for when we're doing trade wars with China, because then we won't have access to those minerals. But I don't know, like, to go to Venezuela to set up this whole operation to extract rare earth minerals, that just doesn't make sense to me. We have rare earth mines in the United States. We have rare earth mines in California. We have rare earth mines in Southern California. Why are we not developing it here? Like that was like the whole thing that the tariffs were for, right? The tariffs on all the like domestic, the tariffs to protect domestic industry were not doing its thing, because like Trump was just doing blanket tariffs on everything, so like, I don't know if we are really in it for we are really looking at Venezuela for the minerals, because there's just so many other easier options, right? Okay. The far-reaching offer remained on the table as the Trump administration called the government of President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela a narco-terror cartel, amassed warships in the Caribbean, and began blowing up boats that American officials say were carrying drugs from Venezuela. Under a deal discussed between senior U.S. official and Mr. Maduro's top aides, the Venezuelan strongman offered to open up all existing and future oil and gold projects to American companies, give preferential contracts to American businesses, reverse the flow of Venezuelan oil exports from China to the United States, and slash his country's energy and mining contracts with the Chinese, Iranian, and Russian firms. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot on the table. Why have we not taken them up on this offer? The Trump administration ended up rebuffing Mr. Maduro's economic consensus and cut off diplomacy with Venezuela last week. What? Okay, but last week, this was the early October. The move effectively killed the deal, at least for now, and the people close to the discussions said that it was done. Though the United States has been targeting what it calls drug boats, the cutoff of diplomacy, the military buildup near Venezuela, and the increasingly strident threats against Mr. Maduro by Trump administration officials has led many in both countries to think that the Trump administration's real objective is Mr. Maduro's removal. Which how can you say otherwise? Literally, all these people are like, we got to remove Maduro. Lindsey Graham was like, we got to remove Maduro. This other guy that we were watching right now, I forgot what his name was. He was like, we got to remove Maduro. Okay. Marco Rubio says we got to remove Maduro. The U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor has been the leading voice in the administration's push to oust Maduro. He called Mr. Maduro an illegitimate leader who is a fugitive from American justice and has been skeptical of the diplomatic approach conducted by U.S. envoy Richard Grenell. Proponents of diplomacy acknowledge that Mr. Rubio's hardline approach has prevailed for now, but they believe their efforts could eventually bear fruit, pointing to Mr. Trump's sudden reversal on other major foreign policy issues, such as the war in Ukraine, trade war with China, or Iran's nuclear program. That's right. Like, what happened? We just bombed Iran's nuclear site and that was it? We haven't heard anything about Iran since. That's crazy. Man, Trump has us messed up. Trump has all the media messed up. I don't even remember things that happened a month ago. That's crazy. All right. This article is based on interviews with more than a dozen. Oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. Oh, man, I don't want to hear Venezuelan stories. No offense to them. But I do want to hear about Miss Machado. Miss Machado's economic advisor, Sari Levy, said the investment deals offered by Maduro would never materialize without democracy, rule of law, and individual freedoms. Yeah, I have to agree with that. If what's to stop, if I don't know, what's an American oil company, like Chevron or something. If Chevron went to Venezuela and was like, okay, we're here to start our new oil contracts or whatever, and Maduro's still in power, what's to stop him from just kicking them out, right? So yes, we really do need to, Venezuela needs to restore its democracy and have more of an open trade market to actually have these oil companies come in. But still, I don't know, man, I don't know. I feel like this was the solution to help renormalize Venezuelans or renormalize Venezuela, open up their markets, help them get more trading goods, because clearly that's what they're lacking is they're not having enough groceries. They're not having enough of anything because they don't make any of that stuff in their country. They rely on importing it from other countries. What Maduro offers investors is not stability, it's control. Control maintained through terror, said Mrs. Levy. The Trump administration has shown a clear intention to not fall for these offers as easy solutions. Venezuela currently produces about 1 million barrels of oil a day, down from about 3 million when Mr. Chavez took power. Damn. Because I think their oil extraction industry is old. It needs to be updated. They just don't have the same technology that everyone else does. The bulk of Venezuela's oil exports go to China, except for about 100,000 barrels per day that the U.S. energy giant Chevron sells to the United States. Most experts agree that Venezuela could quickly ramp up oil output with major injection of foreign capital, though they differ on whether this is achievable under the current government. Yeah. Investment from foreign capital is not going to be no investor is going to say, yeah, let me invest in this country where there's an open dictatorship that controls everything, where other countries are actively, blowing up little boats, blowing up boats for no reason. Well, they say it's for drugs, but doing that, and it ain't it. Our messages to the oil companies. We want you here, certainly, Ms. Machado told American corporate representatives in June. We want you here, not producing crumbs of a couple of 100,000 barrels a day. We want you here producing millions of barrels a day. Why would she not say we want you here to give Venezuelans jobs too? I don't know. because part of the problem is that they need all these barrels of oil to be sold to fund their entire government. I forget which video we were watching, but they said that 90% of the revenue of the government's revenue is from the state-owned oil. In the past, the United States framed its support for a new government in Venezuela as a human rights imperative. In contrast, the economic points discussed by Mr. Maduro's envoys with Mr. Grinnell echoed a mercantilist worldview that Mr. Trump has promoted elsewhere. Mr. Trump has demanded access to Ukrainian minerals as payment for U.S. support for Kyiv's war effort. He has frequently lamented that the United States did not get Iraq oil after the 2003 invasion. He agreed to keep U.S. troops in Syria in 2019 on the condition that America would, quote unquote, keep the oil. The deal discussed between Mr. Grinnell and Venezuelan officials was especially sweeping, representing arguably the most ambitious attempt at resource diplomacy during the president's second term. Normalizing trade and allowing American companies back into Venezuela could be tempting to some U.S. officials because of the country's oil reserves, the world's largest, as well as a significant deposit of natural gas, gold, iron, other minerals. I'm not going to read them all. Mr. Maduro's economic outreach to the United States has also extended to the private sector in an attempt to strengthen his hand in Washington. Venezuela's state oil company has given Chevron, the largest American company working in Venezuela, full control of their joint oil projects, and the two entities discuss giving Chevron a stake in another major oil field. Venezuelan officials have worked to repair relations with another U.S. Oil giant, ConocoPhillips. I think that's how you say it. ConocoPhillips, which left Venezuela in 2007 after the government seized its operations. There you go. Mr. Maduro's government and Conoco have been negotiating an oil trading deals as recently as this year, according to two people familiar with the talks. Chevron said its business dealings in Venezuelan comply with all acceptable Venezuelan and U.S. laws. Conoco did not respond to a request for comment. The outreach by Venezuelan officials and business leaders came closest to achieving a diplomatic breakthrough in May, according to the people briefed on the talks. Okay? Yeah, we're not going anywhere now, huh? As a sign of goodwill, Mr. Grinnell that month orchestrated the return of a Venezuelan toddler stranded in the United States after her parents were deported. Oh, we saw that. Giving Mr. Maduro a domestic political win. Venezuela's government reciprocated shortly after by releasing a U.S. Air Force veteran jailed in the country and delivering him to Mr. Grinnell. Maduro came to support most of the economic terms in the proposal discussed with Grinnell. A person familiar with the negotiations said Maduro initially wavered on the American demand to limit Venezuela's economic ties with China, Russia, and Iran. But he eventually saw that loosening those alliances was an inevitable price for avoiding American military intervention, the person said. To maximize income in the face of U.S. pressure, Venezuela has also stopped sending oil to Cuba. No way. Worsening an acute electricity shortage in the allied nation. Mr. Grinnell's economic negotiations with Maduro's envoys face strong opposition from Mr. Rubio, a Cuban American, and a former senator who has long viewed Maduro's downfall as a crucial step to ending communist dictatorships on the island. Oh, in Cuba. Because I guess that's all we care about is Cuba, right? The proponents of economic engagement with Mr. Maduro have managed to score minor victories. Chevron got its U.S. Treasury license to operate in Venezuela reinstated in July, according to the Venezuelan government. The company succeeded in overturning the ban imposed by Trump months earlier after a concerted lobbying push in Washington, according to people familiar with the deal. The Treasury Department issued another license that will in effect allows Shell, Europe's largest energy company, to restart work in Venezuela. Under a new permit, Shell could begin producing gas from a massive offshore Venezuelan field as soon as next year, according to a person familiar with the deal. Oh my God, all these sources. The gas from the field known as Dragon. What? I'm sorry. The gas from the field known as Dragon will be processed and sold to neighboring Trinidad. Shell directed questions. Blah, blah, blah. Mr. Rubio said last month that the United States would ensure that the Dragon project would not provide significant benefit to the Maduro regime. How is it not going to benefit the Maduro regime when it's literally Venezuelan oil? Dragon. Mr. Maduro has signed off on a stipulation that would have Shell invest in social projects in Venezuela instead of paying his government. For the Maduro government, the key benefit is showing that Venezuela remains open for business. Yeah. Crazy. So maybe the markets in Venezuela will open. Maybe they won't. I don't know. It really seems like it's, businesses. And shoot, I mean, it seems like even the Trump administration can't come to be on the same page about Venezuela. Like, I don't know. All right. Let's read this last article on Marco Rubio, and then we will wrap it up for tonight. Because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. And I hope everyone's going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, or at least, enjoying time with your family. Okay, from Politico. How Rubio's political fate is entangled with Maduro's. The U.S. move against Venezuela's dictator is resonating in Florida, home to a key political constituency of the Secretary of State. So this was written, crap, this is all new articles. That's great. I'm glad I'm covering this then. This was written on the 22nd of this month. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is hoping the Trump administration's pressure campaign against Venezuela breaks strongman Nicolas Maduro's will to stay in power. But if the effort goes sideways, it could wreck Rubio's presidential prospects instead. Damaging his standing with key voters, especially in his home state of Florida. Rubio, who also serves as acting national security advisor, that's right, he does 2 jobs, which is crazy, is a main architect of the administration's Venezuelan strategy, which includes a massive U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean and deadly airstrikes on boats alleged to be ferrying drugs. The stated goal of the campaign is to battle drug cartels, but U.S. officials and people close to the administration say Rubio and aides hope the efforts will lead to Maduro's fall from power. What does he think that the Venezuelan people are going to be like, oh my God, America's coming to invade us. We need to overthrow Maduro before America destroys us. Is that what they're thinking? Or that's what the Trump administration is hoping the Venezuelans think? That's crazy. I mean, I'm sure it'll work for some people, but I don't know for everyone. Donald Trump's willingness to place so much pressure on Maduro is in some ways ideal for Rubio and other hawkish Floridians who have long loathed left-wing Latin American autocrats. But for Rubio, whom Trump has named as a possible 2028 successor alongside Vice President J.D. Vance, I didn't know that Trump actually named little Marco Rubio. Little thirsty Marco Rubio. The operation carries special political risks. If it fails to oust Maduro, Rubio could lose support among Latin American exiles, especially in Florida. If Maduro exits, but the administration's actions leave Venezuelans in even more political and economic instability. It could hurt his standing with those same voters. At the same time, if Rubio succeeds in ousting Maduro, it could damage his position with MAGA isolationists who want to limit U.S. adventurism abroad after the painful experiences of Iraq and Afghanistan. And I would dare argue that MAGA is done with the Israel and Palestine conflict. So MAGA just wants to focus on America first, right? In the MAGA base, there's no political appetite or political will for a regime change in Venezuela, said Matthew Bartlett, a Republican strategist who served at the State Department during the first Trump administration. While that group of voters may be willing to accept military action that has a specific purpose, it is leery of more ill-defined U.S. interventions. As we saw with the Iran strikes, kicking ass is in the GOP's DNA. People came around to that, but there's still a large hesitancy about greater engagement with unclear motives, said Bartlett. I don't know, chat. Was the GOP and Republicans and like probably even MAGA, were they like super stoked of the Iranian like bunker buster bombs? Like I remember the media making a big deal out of it, but like did you, like in your lives, did any of the MAGA people or like shoot even just traditionally conservative people, were they excited that we attacked Iran? Because I remember that just being like a 1 or 2 day thing, and then like we never talked about it ever again. Marcella said, I have no idea. Stardust said, can't say that it was ever a big deal, to be honest. Yeah, I felt like it was a 1 day thing. We're like, oh my God, we're going to go to war with Iran. World War III is going to happen in the Middle East. And then like we blew up we did the bunker buster bomb. Apparently, I don't know if we like missed the target because there was a big old hole next to the building that they were supposed to strike. Like, I don't know. Like, was that even a nuclear facility? I think someone in chat said that it was a drone building facility, but like I don't know. It's very sticky, and like this article is saying, Marco Rubio is a perfect example for that. Many GOP MAGA activists and commentators have long been suspicious of Rubio's past hawkish views. But Rubio has shown tremendous ideological flexibility over the years, surviving longer than many expected in a Republican Party that has swung further and further to the right. That includes being less vocally supportive of U.S. actions, military or otherwise overseas. Since joining the Trump administration, Rubio has shocked many in the foreign policy establishment by dramatically reducing his promotion of human rights and certain democracy-building initiatives. Still, some of his supporters have pointed to his consistency on Latin America's left-leaning autocracies as a sign of Rubio's long-standing convictions. Okay, but like he's Cuban. I don't know many Cubans that were like, oh yeah, I used to hate communism, and now I'm okay with it. No, all Cubans are like, I hate communism from the moment I was born until the moment I'll die, and even then after, in the afterlife, I will still hate communism. Oh, God. People are appreciative that Marco's working hard to get freedom and liberty in Latin America, said Senator Rick Scott, a Rubio ally and former Florida governor. He's doing exactly what he's always been doing. Yeah, like kissing ass and you know, like having no convictions, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's clear Rubio has some convictions. It's just like very, very focused on like traditional conservatism and the Cuban slash Venezuelan anti-communist. Well, there's more Latin American countries that are anti-communist at this point, but you know what I mean. Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, is an important figure in South Florida's Venezuelan and Cuban exile communities who have helped him win past races for the Florida legislature and the U.S. Senate. The crucial voting bloc has loudly called for Maduro's ouster. That's a weird sentence to me. I'm sorry. A successful overthrow of Maduro, even a negotiated exit, could boost Rubio's standing in the community as a state that is an important battleground in GOP primaries. But if the military campaign fails to dislodge the dictator, Rubio could lose credibility with that constituency. If Maduro leaves, honestly, I don't know if he could. I feel like the Cubans are so hard up for any representation, as long as you're also Cuban, even though Ted Cruz, I don't even know if Ted Cruz speaks Spanish, but as long as you're saying that you're anti-communist and pro bringing Cubans who are or bringing over Latin Americans that are escaping communism, then you're good in their eyes. Fled Cruz, fled to Mexico, Cancun Cruz. Thank you. Deviate, you were amazing with the nicknames. Are you sure you're just not Donald Trump? Because these are some Trump levels of name calling, and I'm here for it. If Maduro leaves, however it goes, it'll be good for Marco, said Eduardo Gamara, a Floridian International University professor who polls Florida's Hispanic voters. No, don't compare him to me. I'm sorry. What happens after is another question. If a proper transition to democracy takes place, Rubio's standing could be further burnished. Venezuela has already a strong opposition movement whose candidate the U.S. and most international observers say won the country's July 2024 presidential election. Yeah, I don't know if he's still around, though. Should another strongman take power, delaying the transition to democracy, that could undermine Rubio's standing. Past analysis and war games have also suggested that chaos could easily spread in South America's petrostate, especially if an insurgency materializes. Man, I don't know if there would be an insurgency. That would be crazy. Rubio also needs to weigh how his standing with Trump will be affected if the president comes under fire for either backing down and leaving Maduro in place or pushing a campaign that could lead to chaos in the region. Trump has generally been supportive of Rubio, but that could change if the Venezuelan effort damages the president. Petrol Pete. I love that. Thank you. Petrol Pete Hegseth. Rubio and the more ideological anti-communist in his inner circle have painted Trump into a corner. With a paper-thin counter-narcotics pretext, and a massive military buildup that is beginning to look like a paper tiger if it all does is blah, 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 blah. Rubio and the more ideological anti-communist in his inner circle have painted Trump into a corner. With a paper-thin counter-narcotics pretext and a massive military buildup that is beginning to look like a paper tiger if all it does is whack small boats. There we go. Oh my God, what a long sentence. Sorry. Said John Feely, a former U.S. ambassador to Panama. Oh, okay, I'm sure he was there when we invaded Panama. White House spokesperson Anna Kelly praised Rubio for playing a key role in executing the foreign policy agenda that President Trump was overwhelmingly elected to implement, including securing the border, taking on the cartels, and eliminating the scourge of narco-terrorism that is killing thousands of Americans every year. Damn. Secretary Rubio is completely focused on executing President Trump's America First agenda. State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigot added, I got that nickname from a GTA video. You know what? Now that you mention it, Petrol Pete sounds familiar. Rubio has long sought to push out Maduro. Trump despises Maduro as well, partly for devastating the once prosperous South. Oh, I don't know about that. Part of Rubio's calculations is that toppling Maduro will weaken the regime in his ancestral homeland, Cuba. That's so dumb. Why not just attack Cuba then? I'm sorry. If Rubio wants to save Cuba, save Cuba. If Rubio wants to save Venezuela, save Venezuela. If don't attack Venezuela with the hopes of saving Cuba, that doesn't make sense to me. During the first Trump administration, Rubio and Mauricio Claver Carone, I hope I said that right, then the top White House aide on the Western Hemisphere, crafted a campaign of maximum economic pressure against Caracas. At that time, Venezuela's National Assembly, then led by the opposition, was challenging Maduro's consolidation of power. The U.S. effort, which did not include a substantial military buildup or strikes, eventually fizzled out. Yeah, it's worth noting that Cuban American and Venezuelan American voters did not punish Rubio or Trump, though Maduro tightened his grip on power. Those voters kept Rubio in the Senate and backed Trump for the White House. However, the second term Trump approach to Venezuela at the border, at the broader region, is more high profile than high stakes. Rubio and his allies, with Trump's blessing and the backing of influential White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, has crafted the campaign as being about fighting drug cartels, including ones Trump has designated as terrorist groups. The administration accuses Maduro of being a narco trafficker and a terrorist, insisting, as long as they have, that he is not the country's legitimate ruler. Okay, but then, who is? Who is the legitimate ruler if he's not in charge? The DV8 said they were talking about Vin Diesel's real name or something. Oh yeah, because isn't Vin Diesel, we don't even know what his ethnicity is. He looks like Italian, but also Latino, but also, I don't know, white. Nobody... Vin Diesel is his own ethnic subcategory. Okay. The U.S. military buildup, the U.S. military buildup is its largest in decades in the region and includes about 15,000 U.S. troops, a dozen F-35s, as well as AC-130Js. AC-130Js, are those ships that fly really high in the sky? I'm just thinking of the Call of Duty perks. Yeah, it is. It's the Lockheed Martin big airplane that shoots phosphorus down at you in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Oh, Hellfire missiles. Thank you. Okay. As well as the AC-130J, capable of firing Hellfire missiles, are now in Puerto Rico, much closer to the Venezuelan mainland. Wow, could you imagine? Yeah, sorry, Marcella, it literally is the Call of Duty planes. The Hellfire missiles is an entire kill streak perk that is so overpowered. Sorry, let me finish this article. The USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier and its 3 destroyer escorts arrived over the weekend in the Caribbean. The grouping of the 12 U.S. warships in the region carries hundreds of Marines along with helicopters and fighter planes. The ships are also capable of launching Tomahawk missiles deep into Venezuelan territory. God damn, we're going to carpet bomb Venezuela? AC-130, damn, couldn't have healthcare, I guess. Yeah, no, this AC-130 is healthcare in the fact that it ends the need for healthcare. I'm sorry if that was a dumb joke. all of those allocations have been, bro, all this money on this shit. Yeah. The American military industrial complex. All of these allocations have been closely watched in South Florida, per Frank Mora, who served as ambassador to the Organization of American States under the Biden administration. The policy has created the expectation that the outcomes will be regime change, Mora said. There will be some political consequences with a community that backed Trump in 2024 if that doesn't occur. Yeah, some political consequences. I don't think they're that big. I don't think the pro-Venezuelan MAGA movement is that key of a community for MAGA Republicans. Framing the pressure campaign as an anti-drug operation has also given Trump some cover from MAGA critics who don't believe the U.S. should pursue regime change but supports the fight against drugs. Yet misgivings remain about Rubio's aims with the Venezuelan campaign among Trump backers who have long suspected he isn't MAGA enough. Damn. Rubio, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm calling it. Rubio is not MAGA enough. He originally opposed Donald Trump, and that's not MAGA enough. Oh, but I guess J.D. Vance did too. As determined as Rubio might be to see the operation through, Trump could prove to be the spoiler. The president is wary of any entanglement that could involve U.S. boots on the ground in Venezuela, and he says he's open to negotiating with Maduro. If Maduro makes Trump an offer he likes, such as promising a crackdown on drug boats and access to his country's oil, the president might draw back and leave the strongman in charge. It's unclear if structured conversations between Washington and Caracas are currently occurring. MAGA are not Yankees either. Yeah, exactly. Rubio has told allies he won't run for president if Vance pursues the GOP nod in 2028. Interesting. That said, if Rubio changes his mind, it wouldn't be the first time he's done so on whether to pursue a campaign. Ah, okay. Yeah, he's just testing the waters. He knows, Marco Rubio knows where he stands in the MAGA party, you know, in the MAGA base, and he knows he's not as loved as J.D. Vance is. Rubio, a relatively young 54, has political options beyond 28. He could run for Florida governor or return to the Senate or run for president in 2032 if Democrats win the White House in 28. Some of Rubio's non-interventionist critics say he may not feel the direct political consequences if a Venezuela operation destabilizes the South American country. That cost may be felt by Trump and Vance, especially if the vice president runs in 28. Vance has defended the U.S. airstrike on alleged drug boats. If the administration goes tits up because Marco Rubio spearheaded an invasion, that's J.D. Vance's problem, said Kurt Mills, the executive director of the American conservative magazine. Rubio can just slip back into politics and pretend he wasn't involved in this and run again in 2032 or 2036. Crazy. That was by Paul McLeary. That was a good read, honestly. We'll see. I'm keeping my eye on Rubio. I'm putting all my money on Rubio. I feel like if Trump goes down, then Vance will go down with him. But if Trump goes down, Rubio could still be good. Thoughts on Monty Mole? Who is Monty Mole? Oh, I'm gonna search Monty Mole real quick. From Mario, homie. The Mario character. Bro, what is this character? Monty Mole. It's related to Rocky Wrench. I'm sorry, I don't know these Mario characters. Monty Mole is a platform video game published in 1984. That's crazy. Okay. We're gonna wrap it up here. It's already been 2 hours that we've been streaming. Sorry. You can get a Monty Mole theme on your Nintendo account. Okay. Let's let the music. Sorry, Deviate. We're not making fun of you. I promise. I just Monty Mole. Stay safe. Yes. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, we got one cat. What do you have to say about Nicolas Maduro? I think he likes Maduro. Okay, he sneezed on the mic. All right, have a good night, everyone. Beebs, or however you spell it, yes, is Beebs. Thank you for remembering. Beebs the orange demon. He's crazy, but okay. Have a good night, everyone. Take care. Peace. I will definitely be streaming Inland Empire Political News on Sunday. So I just had some extra time today because, Thanksgiving break. So yes, also everyone have a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Yeah, just be safe. Always, spend good time with your family, and yeah, I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Have a good one, everyone. Take care. Let me put the music louder.